Welcome to the I'm Possible podcast, episode 10, with me, Anna Essen. I was cutting today's podcast episode because I have recorded it a few weeks ago. And I was actually questioning myself whether I should post it or not. Because by re listening it, I just saw, of course, few patterns. In It was a challenging moment when I recorded it, and I saw a few patterns by the words I used, and now I feel myself in another um, emotional state than a few weeks ago when I recorded it. And yet, I made the decision to share it with you. And the reason why I'm doing this is because that I know when we choose to go on a path of self awareness, self rediscovering, remembrance, we have often a moments of ups and we have also a moments of down. And you'll hear in the podcast episode that I speak about my observation that most of the time we hear the story told by someone when the moment of down is already overcome. So when the person was able to go from the valley to and climb again the mountaintop. But seldom we hear the story when the person is actually in the valley and sharing the emotional challenges connected with it. So I tap into the energy and I just felt that there is maybe someone, even if it's just one person, who needs to hear this, not to be encouraged to stay in this emotional turmoil, but to be actually seen and witness and assure that is okay. That is okay to have a moment in time where instead of focusing on the solution, instead of focusing on the light, maybe you tend to focus in this moment on the problem and um, on the thoughts that your brain are giving you. And most of the times, the thoughts we're getting from our brain are not most cherishing, and they're not kind of our cheerleaders, at least in my head. And with, I suppose, 99.99% of the people I have spoken to. So enjoy it and see you in the next episode. Hello, I'm Possible Community. I'm so happy to have you back here for a next episode. And this episode will be a little different than the most podcast episodes you will find um, anywhere across the internet, because at least in my perception, mm, let me say 99% of the podcast of the people sharing a journey, a story, they share it when the journey on the or the story is completed. And uh, most of the time then the happy end has been revealed, right? It's the so-called hero journey. But not very often, at least in my own perception, I come across conversation where the participants share a story when they are in the midst of this journey, when they are walking the path and actually don't have yet the outcome, the hero journey or the failure, and then the failure, of course, to become the win in some point of time. I don't know whether this is something that you also encounter, but at least in my perceptions, most of the time, the stories that are shared are when the protagonist, the person sharing their life experience, has already completed it. And when they're in midst of something they not very often share it because it's difficult to now understand whether it's going to be a winning trade or a losing trade, right? It's the same time when you will like decide to trade on the stock market or cryptocurrency and you are in the midst of the trade, you know that it can take just a second to turn in the one or the other direction, right? So very often we don't want to share something when we're in the midst of it. But today's episode is exactly about me sharing something with you because maybe you're in the midst of something, of a problem, and that can give you another perception. So I'm sitting here on the balcony and I'm since few weeks in the midst of a problem. And I'm telling you, I've been doing the last few weeks the best I can do and using different tools, using different techniques, also talking with different people, talking only with myself because, talking to ourselves, it's always good because we need sometimes an expert opinion. Like I was approaching the problem from so many different viewpoints, even actually from the viewpoints of it is solved, what is my most desired outcome, and tuning in this frequency and really, really deep feeling it, right? But as I'm recording this episode and I'm sitting on the balcony in my human brain, I know that the time is running away, like literally almost no time. And I know in my intellectual brain that time is a concept and that for things to shift, there is not time needed. It's just the attunement in the right frequency, right? I know this, but it's still in my intellectual brain. It's not, for me, a real knowing is, it's when you have it so deeply embodied in your heart that there is no even a blink of a doubt possible. Give you a very simple example. If you drop something on the floor and you bend, you just, bend, take it and put it back on the table, for example, like a coin, right? You haven't thought for a second whether you can bend and pick up the coin and put it back on the table, right? You just did it because you know it's so intrinsically strong that your body has the possibility, hopefully, right? Not everybody on earth, there is few exceptions, but I'm talking about the average person. Your body has the capability to bend without breaking. To your hand has a capability to grab the coin, and you have the capability to stand straight ahead again and put the coin on the table. Simple. You don't think about it, you just do it. And that's for me a knowing, right? So everything below this is a concept. So for me, when I say I know it, for me is still in between concept and embodying it. It's not fully integrated to the level that I say, I really know it. That's why I do it without a blink of a doubt. So, um, as I was sitting on the balcony thinking of, okay, the time runs away. And on the other side, my brain telling me, hey, there is no time. Everything can shift. The same as us when you put a trade on the stock market. Your trade can just go really good in from the one to the next moment. Butterfly can change something so the trade can turn around to 180 degrees. I have seen this. And I believe a lot of people who trade have seen that. And don't get confused. I'm not trading. I just learn it a little for the fun. But it's definitely very interesting to observe the market. So I know this. And yet sitting in my human brain, starting worrying and pondering and again focusing on the problem. And it focusing on the problem and it's feel challenging. And suddenly I felt, I remembered myself how I was able to forgive people that really, really deep hurt me, um, to very, very, uh, to a level where normally others will say, I'll never forgive that. I will never have any contact with that person. I was able to do it by acknowledging that every person is doing the best they can do with the in every single moment with the conscious level and understanding and knowing they have. Let me repeat this again because it's very important and you're gonna keep hearing me in different times of this podcast, reminding you this because I also need to remind myself sometimes. Every person is doing every moment the best they can do with a conscious level understanding and knowing they have. So I was thinking, when I have the capacity and the compassion to, and forgive is not the right word, to accept the the things that other have done towards me that made me feel so bad, that jeopardized my life and my well-being, why I cannot do this the same to myself? How can I be so compassionate towards others? But I forgive myself to be compassionate towards myself when I'm in the midst of trying to solve a problem and doing so many things and kind of like everything looks not really working out, at least for now. Like, as I said, I still don't know in which direction the trade will move, whether to the winning or the failure. Uh, Maybe in some days, in the next episode, I can share it with you or the episode after that. But as for now, I don't know. So why I can feel this compassion for others, but I cannot feel it for myself? And in this moment, when I was thinking about that, I really felt myself, my higher self, talking to my ego, because in I am possible, one of the key concepts I'm really willing to share with you, and also that is something that to remember with the women in the I'm Possible Club, is that everything what seems impossible, the answer is already inside, and that is when we really fully integrate our I am. And for me, in my perception, the I am is the perfect alignment between the I and the am, between the ego and the soul, between the ego and our higher self. Take the words interchangeably. It's not about trying to kill the ego, trying to suppress and the higher self to be the only one in charge, or it's not about the ego being fully in charge and ignoring really installed compass, our intuition, our higher version of ourselves. But it's literally, the perfect alignment between both. And I just saw and experienced how my higher self was reassuring and kind of parenting my ego and saying, it is okay. It is okay. You're doing the best you can do with the conscious level understanding and knowing you're currently having. And it's okay. And you hear the tears coming down now because I just feel like, when a child is crying and the mom is coming to nurturing and giving this acknowledgement, kind of this need to release this inner feeling, I've been seen. It is okay to be perfectly imperfect and to not always in every given moment to have the solution, and to be able to see the solution and to not know in which direction. And this kind of scares the ego of not knowing what will happen in the next moment. Are we going to win or lose? And is there a losing at all? Because sometimes that's what feels as a loss to the ego. When you go down the road, the journey, you find out, oh my God, that was the best thing that could have happened to myself. But back there, because I was so much in this ego direction of thinking what I know, what's the best outcome, and not getting it, I thought that something went wrong. But then realizing nothing was wrong. It was just perfectly alignment, because otherwise this and this and this wouldn't have happened. So this episode is for the moments when you feel kind of you're in the midst of something and it looks like that nothing is working the way you love to have it, and you just feel that you're running out of time. And of course, I can talk now about the concept of divine timing and whatever, but I don't want to go on this path in this episode. I just re-listen to this episode, store it, save it, and just remind yourself you're always doing the best you can do in any given moment with the level of consciousness you have, with the understanding and the embodied knowing. I love you. I see you. Your Anna. Bye-bye. Till next week.